Warm welcome again, Chris, and obviously this is not my first time in Bermuda, as a couple of you in this room might know. I think you kind of know you've been here too many times when the customs officer called you by your first name. My role this morning is to talk briefly about, Microsoft, talk about the industry that we're in, the technology industry, give you some ideas of the trends that we're seeing happening that's going to affect all of us, whether we're in the technology business, whether we're in the insurance business, whether we're in whatever business we are, we all know in this room the technology is going to affect it. So it's very essential that we start looking at some of the emerging trends in technology in order to help us plan for what's coming next. It's very interesting when you look at people who have been in this technology business for a while, and they said, most of us, I did my degree, some number of years ago, and nothing I learned at that time in computer science applies anymore except for some basic stuff. So we've got to agree that technology is changing, and therefore it's going to affect our business as fast as it is possible. So if my mouse works here. So when we as a company, Microsoft, look at some of the things that are happening with technology, so this is what we see. Let's talk about some things on this chart. Machine learning. This is the ability of algorithms to be input into data to be put into algorithms, user input data, and that this business decisions or decisions are being made based on what you enter. So very compute-heavy decisions. I can give you examples, maybe something like doing searches in Bing, Google, those kinds of things. Voice recognition software, we all use things like Siri and stuff on the Apple. Those are high definition things that are using machine learning to understand our languages or variances in language to understand what it's going to give back. And we all know the technology is not perfect yet. We've all had those kinds of people tell us, we don't understand what you're saying, or give you crazy responses to whatever you ask the machine. So machine learning is that we're starting to see where machines are learning as they go along and being able to produce business decisions for us. Natural interaction, human beings, all of us in this room grew up with computer keyboards and mouse to interact with the computer. That certainly isn't going to be the future for technology. The technology is going to be built around touch and voice. So that people who are designing applications, people who are building things today, have got to start thinking about how you're going to do touch and voice as that processing technology becomes more popular. Ubiquitous connectivity. There's connectivity everywhere. We're all getting to the stage where we expect to be computed with our computers, telephones, our home equipment to the internet, and we expect instantaneous response when we walk in. I walked into this conference room this morning, and the first thing I asked the Ignition team is, what's the password? I expected it to be free, but hey, this is buoy, right? But that's the thing. We're expecting connectivity wherever we go. Social computing, I don't have to tell you about that. Everybody here is on IHateFacebook.com, right? Good. So everything has been built around social computing, and you know that's a trend. Let me give you an interesting statistic. Everybody here is familiar with a music star, Rihanna? Rihanna has 60 million people following her on Twitter. Think about the power she holds in her hands if she says, I like a product. 30 million are going to follow her. 15 million people are going to say, I'm going to like that product also. Or 60 million. 60 million is almost the population of the UK. Let me talk about data explosion. Every device that we have in the industry now, every smart device is generating data. We have more data today than we've ever had in the world. The IDC estimates that we have 2.7, 2.8 zettabytes of information. Anybody know what's a zettabyte? Billion terabytes. It's expected by the year 2015 we will have 8 to 10 zettabytes. And now they've already prepared the next term for us, which is called a yottabyte. So we in technology, we like to introduce terms all the time just to keep you confused. But the next term that's coming is called a yottabyte. Consumerization of IT. We like to call them the millennials, but you realize the people who are growing up today were born in the computer age. They've started getting into the business world, and they have been using a phone, using a computer since birth. They know nothing else. So they're expecting to come into the workplace and expect that they will find the technology that they're accustomed to working with at home, at play. They expect that same level of technology and work. So we're now finding this term called consumerization of IT, where the future of technology in companies is not being driven by the IT folks anymore, but by the people who are coming to work saying, I want to work with this technology because I am comfortable with this technology. So consumers are now driving the way IT has to run. Ecosystem of computers, there's a computer everywhere. I've just recently seen a refrigerator that tracks barcodes coming in and out the fridge that says, you know, you take the box of milk out, it logs it. Put it back in, it logs it. When you don't put that milk carton back into the fridge, it adds it to its grocery list, and you can decide if you want the fridge to dial the grocery with your list, or you will decide when you want to send the grocery list and have delivery. So we're seeing computers literally in everything. When we launched Windows 8 a couple of months ago, there were already 1,700 footprints running Windows 8 in some form or fashion, whether it's a tablet, it's a desktop, whatever it is, 1,700 devices already running this operating system. And cloud computing, for those of us who grew up in the industry who have gray hair like me or no hair like me, you know that we used to have these things called mainframe computers, and we all used dumb terminals out at the other end for people who needed access to systems. And now the world has taken almost a 360 degrees, and we're going back to big centralized mainframe systems, albeit run at a lower cost entry point and providing a lot more power and capability with cloud computing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because it's very important about how that's affecting Bermuda already, and where we're going to go next. Am I doing something wrong here? Okay. So just throwing some statistics up on where we see the trend, how these trends that I've talked to you about and how we see them affecting how we go next. It's estimated that there will be a billion smartphones by 2016, 350 million of those being used at work. 82% of the world's online population engages in social networking, and 50% of enterprise and customers are on the road to the cloud. These are very interesting statistics because you take, for example, the phones. You realize that if you have so many phones out there, you are going to have to start catering for that population, that user base out there who wants to get access to information on their phones while they're mobile. You have to get access to the social networking sites. How many of us have kids in here? A couple of folks. How many of your kids read the newspapers? Where do businesses do a lot of advertising today? We've got to start thinking about where you even put your advertisements depending on the audience that you want to attract. Okay? So what's driving this pace of change today? Well, we call it the very much smarter consumer. And of course, the technology has become affordable and easily available. No longer technology is being driven out of people wearing white coats in a glass-walled room. Technology is available at our fingertips. We, the consumer, now have a lot of that power in our hands. And obviously it's the technology, it's the things like are available on the social networking sites, the access to information. Let's give some examples of, you take a company like Amazon. Amazon started 9, 10 years ago, I think it was, being a seller of books on the internet. Today, what is Amazon? The world's largest retailer, selling everything but books. Okay? You take, let's look at radio. It took 38 years to reach 50 million users of radio in the world. 38 years. It took 9 months for Facebook to reach 100 million users. So we've got to start being not alarmed, but start understanding that this is what's coming, this is what's happening to us around here. And I'm sure this is not news to you. You've seen it coming. I'm just going to use the... We've got to see how these trends are going to affect us. Let's look at a couple more trends. 85 billion applications have been downloaded on the phone in the year 2013. How many people are around the world today? 7, 8 billion? 10 billion? You divide that by 85 billion applications and you realize that many people are using many applications. They're looking for applications to run on their devices, and that's what we're seeing as a major trend. Social networking sites, everybody expects that they will have access to a social networking site, and this is why I'm showing you this is because we're going to go full circle to show you how it's affecting what technologies are coming for you available in your end user applications, the things that you do at home, because all of this is what we're looking at coming down the pike in order to build what's coming next. The one that I wanted to talk quickly about is big data. As I said, every device, every smart device that we have today is spewing data at us. IT folks can no longer just say, I'm going to have my annual growth is 20 megabytes or 20 gigabytes per month or per year. Data is just coming to us fast and furious. And now we have something called structured data and unstructured data. What do I mean by that? Long ago, we used to be very, very, very succinct and say, okay, this is my data. It's built on file, and I have a record, and